Sage Wanderer here, and welcome to the sheep pen, bah, where no goats are allowed. So today, I've got a really dark topic. Um, you know that I study a lot, and I do a lot of research into ancient religions, the occult. I study everything from witchcraft to tarot card reading, and that's one of the reasons where, and some of you may not realize this, that a significant portion of the 500 or so people who view these videos on a regular basis, a significant portion of them are reformed Satanists and witches and other people who are heavily involved in the occult. I've also got a lot of victims of childhood sexual and ritualistic abuse that view the channel, that are part of the sheep pen ministry. And so it requires me to spend a lot of time understanding all of this stuff, because many of you, and to a certain degree some of the target audience of this ministry, are people who have fallen prey to everything from Wicca to voodoo and various new age practices. So understanding how all of this works is a big part of how I spend my time. Now, how these sermons get distributed to you and the order in which I preach them is 100% led by the Holy Spirit. And recently, a change has come up to where I get these sermons in the night. I wake up typically between 2 and 4 o'clock in the morning, and I have them, and then I kind of toss and turn until I get up around 6 or 7 and basically write these sermons in my sleep. And then typically there's a few hours of research that once I get the sermon, I want to kind of shore up my research and background material on it. And then sometime at this time of day, around 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, then I will sit down and start filming these sermons. And so last night's sermon download was very disturbing. And I hate to have to talk about such dark things, but one of the things that is the direction and the purpose of this channel is to shine a light on spiritual darkness, that I reveal God and his power and the power of the Holy Spirit and the supernatural unseen world to you, both the world of God and his miracles, and also the world of the enemy and their deceptions. And so today we're going to talk about child sacrifice. It's a dark topic, but it's something that I feel the need to speak on, because child sacrifice is something that has always been present in the world. If you think child sacrifice is some kind of mythology and you don't believe it and it's fake news, I'm sorry, you're just about as ignorant as they come. You're just about as uninformed as humans come, okay? And you need to rethink that head in the sand vision of reality, when in fact, beyond a shadow of a doubt, it's a proven historical fact that child sacrifice has always occurred down through history and is currently occurring even in modern times, even to this day. And at the center of this child sacrifice is a deity that demands the pain and suffering of children and infants. And this is the deity that's been known as Moloch or Moloch or Malak or Melk, okay? I also believe that it's the Ammonite god, the Canaanite god, and the god known as Baal. That this is the same entity. And so, whoops, hit my tripod there. So this entity that we're just going to refer to as Moloch, and it's going to cover all of the Ammonite and Amorite gods. And this kind of takes us back again, once again, to Solomonic magic. So we're going to return in the storyline, in the timeline, where we left it in a previous discussion, where Solomon, having obtained all the wisdom from God as a gift from God, uses the wisdom and his connection with God to obtain this ring of power called the Ring of Michael, which on it is embossed with the seal of Michael, which gives Solomon the power to control demons. And so he starts to round up these primary demons, these archdemons, and enslaves them in the building of the temple. And then, this is now all according to the Old Testament scripture, Solomon now becomes involved with the spiritual life of some of his captured wives. So he has Amorite wives and Ammonite wives and Canaanite wives, Phoenician wives. And their primary religion is the religion of Moloch, the religion of Baal. You can call him by various names, but we're going to refer to him as Moloch, the god of child sacrifice. Now, according to the Testament of Solomon and some other books of antiquity, which get into more detail about these demons that Solomon was able to use the God-given ring of Michael that was given to him to enslave and bind these demon spirits, that in this process, he starts to enter into worship of other gods, of other deities, and Moloch is one of them. And he gets seduced into this by his wives. And even though God told Solomon not to marry into these and not to cross-marry with these people who worshipped Moloch and Baal, he did it anyway. And there was one particular woman that he was in love with that I talked about in the previous video on Solomonic magic. And in that story, she seduces, convinces Solomon to sacrifice 4 locusts, 4 bugs, basically. By crushing these 4 bugs, she gets him to sacrifice to her god, right? Now, Moloch is the god of child sacrifice. And once again, according to some of these ancient books, who is Moloch? Moloch was the primary warring angel opposed to Michael. He was Michael's alter ego, okay, not alter ego, but opposing force. So he was the evil general. The fight was not between Lucifer and Michael. The fight was between Moloch and Michael. And that Moloch was such a diehard, powerful general for Satan, that for the demonic side, the rebellion, that once Michael defeated the demon army and they were discharged and thrown out of heaven and stripped of their title and authority, and in some cases people believe banished to this earth, that Moloch was the primary general, and he was not happy with the decision to surrender, that he wanted to regather his forces and bring a resurgent secondary attack. He wanted to renew the war in heaven after the initial loss to Michael and try to assail God again and remove him physically from the throne. And so Moloch is the god of war. Moloch is the ultimate demonic warrior, okay? And the thing about Moloch is that he requires and is fueled by and is worshipped through child sacrifice. That's the primary way, is through sexual and actual blood sacrifice. And so this demon deity has been known by many various names. To me, Moloch is a much closer description of what we might refer to as Satan than the Lucifer character is. That Moloch, this god of war, this god of child sacrifice, is probably more closely related to the principal deity that we are battling against, both in the Old Testament, back in the days of Solomon, and right on up to current times. That human sacrifice to Moloch was going on in the Americas when under various names. These demons were known under various names. Quetzalcoatl is one of them, a red feathered serpent demon, which in my opinion, because of its appetites, because of its requirements, because of the way the sacrifices were carried out, it reminds me very much of Moloch. And so a Moloch sacrifice in ancient Mesopotamia would look something like this, and it's so, this is the darkest topic, but I've got to talk to you about it because, I mean, really the name of this video is Child Sacrifice or Human Sacrifice, Then and Now. because this has gone on unceasing. And one of the reasons why people think that child sacrifice didn't exist then, never existed, and doesn't exist now is because the powers of light, the armies of God since the time of Christ, have had at least 51% control over this earth spiritually. And we have kept the devil and Moloch and demons and all of this chaos. We've been keeping it contained, corralled, suppressed. But about 5 years ago, I made a video, 4 or 5 years ago. It was titled "The Rise of a New Dark Age," and I told you that it had been revealed to me by not just observation, but also through divine telling. The Holy Spirit spoke to me back then and told me that we've entered into a new dark age. That's what has happened is the powers of Moloch, the powers of evil, have taken 51% control of the earth. And Christianity is no longer, I wouldn't even say Christianity, the powers of light and goodness. It doesn't all come from Christianity, although Christianity to me is the source. And it was the only time in human history that we were able to get 51% control of this earth, because the devil has been in control of this. God's not in control. That's a myth from an Amy Grant song. Stop saying it. God is not in control. She's a liar, because my Bible says that the whole world is under the sway of the evil one. The whole world is under the sway of the evil one. And so I do not go by the belief that God is in control, because if God is in control, then he is a tyrant, because evil, horrible things are happening. If God were in control, the world would be a better place, trust me. And you've done more to help the devil in his plans in this world by proclaiming that God is in control of this messed up, screwed up world full of evil, death, destruction, disease, and child sacrifice. God is not in control of this mess. If he is, find a new God, because he ain't working for you. No, we were put in charge of this earth. And these usurping demons, these off-world, extraterrestrial, interdimensional creatures, are invaders. They are refugees from this heavenly war, and they are here amongst us trying to take control of this earth and make this their home base. And the only thing standing between us and them, or between them and their goal rather, is us. And all of us who are followers of and children of the light. And I specifically lay that light at the feet of Jesus, the light. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. And like John said, a light came into our world. And so all power, in my opinion, of the powers of light flows through and because of Jesus and what he did in his life, ministry, death, and resurrection. And now, having given you the preacher spiel there, we'll get back to the point that this world has fallen under the control, the total control of the wicked one. And although Christianity might have been 51% in control at points in history, specifically at the beginning of my lifetime, the powers of light were mostly in control of the world for the most part. But just in my lifetime, the paradigm has shifted and the script is flipped. What happens when the devil gets control of 51% of a society, a group, a region, or God forbid, the whole planet? Child sacrifice makes a return. Human sacrifice suddenly makes a return. And I know it sounds insane to say that we are standing on the precipice of a time in history where child sacrifice and human sacrifice of various sorts to various demon entities that has been going on from the beginning of time, has gone on unceasing. It just was underground. When we had control of society, that kind of stuff was forced into secret rooms and underground installations and caves and rendezvous points in the redwoods and places like that. Secret. But what happens when the devil, when Baal, when Moloch gets control of 51% of a culture, or God forbid the world, then human sacrifice goes on display and it suddenly comes from the dark and out into the daylight. And now you have public. Brace yourself for televised human sacrifice. I know it sounds insane, but if you just went in a time machine back 20 years and described to somebody 20 years ago the crap that we're going through right now in this country, in this world, and in our reality, they would have thought it was impossible for the world to shift in 20 years as much as it has shifted in the past 20 years. My grandmother, who just died about 4 years ago, she was born in the horse and buggy days, and she passed over to the other side in the age of the internet. And think of how much societal change, think of how much religious change, how much morality changed in that 100 years. Now look at it, it's accelerating. And we have crossed the threshold about 4 or 5 years ago where 51% of our culture in this country and across the globe is now non-Christian, non-good, self-oriented, and quite frankly inspired by and controlled by child-sacrificing, demon-worshiping purveyors of Moloch and Baal. They have come out, they're going to come out, and are in the process of coming out into the daylight. One of the most in-your-face, but you don't see it, but one of the most in-your-face things that's going on right now that is an effort to bring child sacrifice out of the shadows and into the daylight is modern abortion practices. We are battling for that 51-49% control right now over this topic. It's so sacred to the evil, anti-God people of darkness, the right to kill babies for their own convenience, for their own life choices, sometimes just as birth control. Some of them celebrate it and make it a pagan sacrifice to have an abortion. And what you don't know is that these abortion doctors, many of them are worshiping Moloch and Baal and getting credit for those little baby sacrifices. Now, it's not as bad as it was in ancient days when people would raise their children up, make them fat, happy, healthy, and well, and then bring them willingly to these giant statues in the shape of a bull, of a human with a bull's head. It's made out of bronze. Giant statue made out of bronze with iron hands, bronze hands that come out from the statue like this. And then a fire is built under the statue until the whole thing is glowing red. And then parents come as a sacrifice to these evil deities, and they lay their babies, their toddler age and school age children, alive. They just carry them up and put them right on a frying pan, essentially, right on a red hot glowing fire that burns them alive. It's surrounded, the ceremony is surrounded by what you might call a rock concert kind of environment. Loud music, partying, dancing, drinking, drugs, alcohol, all of that's going on to kind of drown out the screams of the babies so they don't feel so bad about what they're doing. But according to these ancient rites and rituals, the screams of the children are the thing that feeds Moloch. Child sacrifice to Quetzalcoatl and to other Aztec, Incan, and Mayan deities in Mesoamerica, in Central and South America, in the Americas. These kind of sacrifices to these deities, for instance, the rain sacrifice of child's sacrifice for a rain, to pray for rain. It was believed that the more the baby cried, the more tears that it shed, the more rain would come from the season. See, these demons hate us so bad, and they hate innocent babies so bad because they represent the hope of the next generation. They represent the future of humanity. They represent our hopes, our dreams, the coalescence of two people's deep and undying love for one another that causes people to mate, to marry, and to procreate. This divine blessing from God. It's so important to these demons. They hate us so much that that's where they attack us. They attack us at attack that union. They want to destroy the marriage. They want to destroy the family. They want to destroy the procreation, because the procreation is the future of mankind. They want you to willingly give up this bundle of joy, this gift from God, to these evil entities that still exist in this world. There are still, to this day, babies being sacrificed to Moloch. I'm telling you that in my lifetime, we went from no child being missing to, if a child went missing, the entire country stopped to look for him, to random disappearances, children disappearing on a daily basis, murders of all sorts of children, children sacrifice is going on in Uganda to the voodoo gods to this day. In Uganda, in Nigeria, just Google it, child sacrifice is still a thing. People are still, to this day, kidnapping babies and sacrificing them to these demons that most of you stupid Americans don't even believe in. You don't believe that this stuff even exists, and it's happening. It's never stopped happening. It's still happening, and it's happening now at an alarmingly and increasing rate. That child sacrifice through the dark art, through this evil witchcraft of abortion. These doctors, these witch doctors, these purveyors of child sacrifice. It's a holocaust. Modern abortionism in America is a holocaust, and it is a sacrament to Baal. It's a sacrament to Moloch. You're sacrificing yourself to this Moloch, this god of war, this god of destruction, who's fueled by the tears of babies, is fueled by the pain of children. The devil wants you dead. Moloch, in my opinion, is the closest entity that we have operating in this world today to Satan himself. He may actually be Satan by another name. But whoever this evil fallen angel is, he is stepping into the forelight again. He's stepping into the spotlight again in history. That as we lose the culture war, as we lose our children to this culture of self-debasement, self-destruction, and self-empowerment, right? Self-worship. As we lose generations to the dark side, then this disgusting and foul practice of killing babies and children, torturing them, it fuels these demons. It fuels these evil people. The truth someday will come out about Epstein and Little St. John, or Little St. whatever island. That temple, that Babylonian-looking, dome-looking Egyptian temple on that island is where they did this stuff. People know it. Everyone knows it. It's a giant cover-up. They're gonna say you're crazy if you believe it. But trust me, what is done in the dark is going to come to the light. And you're going to have a front row seat. Moloch, the god of war, is about to release World War III on this planet. Nuclear weapons are about to fly. Suffering beyond your wildest imagination is about to be released on this earth. And the only thing standing between total destruction and total chaos brought on by these evil deities that are rising now in the vacuum of the loss of the church and Christianity. As it declines, the dark side is rising. And when this happens, you're going to have a front row seat to the most horrific things. And the only thing standing between us and that reality is a handful of people like me and you. Workers of light, whistleblowers, people who actively go against the demonic in their own family, people that are not afraid to stand up to the devil even if it costs them their family and their life and their livelihoods, that they're willing to fight. So we talk about what happened with Solomon. Solomon, who wrote all the wise words of the Proverbs. Solomon, who wrote the beautiful erotic poetry of the Song of Solomon. Love songs of the highest level. This great king and beloved person who was under the blessings of God. God blessed him with wisdom. he was led astray by his foreign wives to worship Moloch and Baal. And he erected in Jerusalem, in Israel, on the high places. That's what principalities and powers in high places mean. They would set up these worship zones to Baal and to Moloch. The gods of Asher, the maypoles that they did their ritualistic dances around. These are the places where child sacrifice took place in Israel. That Israel turned their back on God under Solomon. And Solomon encouraged the worship of Baal and Moloch. And Jewish babies in Israel were being sacrificed to these foreign gods. And this is all laid at the feet of Solomon, who played with magic, who played with the occult, who abused the authority God gave him to bind demons, and he began to use it to pad his pockets and to make himself rich. Moloch and Baal seduced Solomon through his interactions with his foreign wives that he took against God's admonishments. He was commanded not to do that. And in doing so, he opened up a dark age. But a man would be raised up. When hell comes at you like a flood, then God rises up a standard against it. There's an action and there's a reaction. So when evil rises, God will raise up a champion against the devil. And I will tell you what, when the demonic gets 51% control of the culture, a people, or God forbid the world, then a new kind of spiritual warrior has to arise. It's a different religion. We're entering into, when this flipped, when we lost control, when the script flipped, okay, then the method of doing battle has to change dramatically. It goes from being a traditional battle to being a guerrilla warfare in the spirit realm. And the rules are different, and the methods are different. But in the time of Solomon, God rose up a man who would put an end to these sacrifices in Jerusalem. He would tear down those places of worship in high places that were built by Solomon and his wives from foreign countries. And these worship centers were destroyed and brought low by a man named Josiah. You can look that up in the Bible. I'm not an Old Testament scholar, but I also am a student of history. And Josiah tore down those places of worship. What we need in this country is for God to rise up a champion, to raise up a standard against this evil. We have lost the fight, and we are no longer in charge of our culture or no longer have sway over it. And now the tactics have to change. The warfare has to change. We have to go on the offensive now. We need a Josiah. And maybe the T-Man, who will remain nameless, had something to do with that. Maybe he's a Josiah character of sorts because of what he did in our Supreme Court. That our Supreme Court right now is the only thing standing between us and street sacrifices of our babies to these alien gods. I'm telling you, it's right around the corner. It seems insane to think that that can happen, but it can happen so fast. If you're a student of history, it can happen in the lifetime of one king, like in the time of Solomon. You can go from a righteous culture to a culture that sacrifices its own children to alien gods, to demons. Where have all the children gone? Why are the missing and exploited children so many that no one can, they don't even look for them anymore? If a baby's gone for more than 24 hours, they just chalk it up. Come on, people. This happened in my lifetime. I remember when a child was the most valuable thing in the world, and the world stopped if a baby went missing. And now we don't think nothing of it. That right there ought to be proof enough for you. The value of human life under these demonic alien rulers it reduces it to nothing. And the child, which should be the most precious thing on earth, is reduced to nothing. A sacrifice to be made for good luck, to appease an angry God. And then we've got the Podesta emails that has One of Hillary's friends talking to her in an email and says, hey, I guess I forgot to sacrifice a chicken to Moloch today in the backyard. And it may sound like a harmless joke, but these people aren't joking. This is real. You're going to live to see it on television. You're going to live to see child sacrifice. If you don't get off the couch, if you don't get active, if you don't get active in your prayer life, if you don't declare war on the devil, if God doesn't rise up a Josiah to put this down, this is where we're headed in your lifetime. Are we in a new dark age? Absolutely. Abso-freaking-lutely. I've seen it get worse and worse and worse. You've seen it, but you ain't seen nothing yet. But God can raise up a standard against this. We can flip the script. We can turn this around. It is not too late. And I tell you one thing, even if I don't win against this evil, I'm going to go down swinging. And I will not give into it. And I will not pass my child through the fire to Moloch. Child sacrifice is something that the devils, these demons, these fallen angels have always required of their followers. It can be done in the quiet, in the silence, in the dark, or it can be brought into the daylight, depending on how much power these people have in a culture. They sacrifice people from dawn till dusk, every day for days on end in the Aztec, Mayan, and what's the other? Aztec, Incas. The Mesoamerican Holocaust of children is documented. It's archaeological evidence. There's no arguing against it. It happened. It's never stopped happening. It just gets reduced. It gets pushed into the darkness. But it's coming out into the public. We have to stop the Holocaust of abortion. Thank you, God, for changing the will of the people through the Supreme Court. Now the fight is on to enforce that across the country. But this was such a dark talk. You're the only thing. Your prayers are the only thing stopping this. God's people are the only thing that can stop this. God's people are the only thing. We've got to raise up a Josiah. We've got to raise up an army to stand against this evil that is sexualizing children is the first step. Then child trafficking and child rape, which always ends in child sacrifice. Whether you're seeing it or whether it's happening in secret. Trust me, where have all the kids gone? Look up the numbers. We have kids disappearing. Where are they going? Their bodies are never found. This is happening. Pray against it. Support this ministry through your gifts so that I can keep spreading this message and I can keep telling the truth about what is going on and what we can expect to see if we don't stand up against these dark demonic entities that people are openly worshiping again. The worship of Moloch and these other demons through music and art and underground rituals is starting to come to the forefront. It's everywhere. Witchcraft is the quickest growing religion in America today. And child sacrifice is where that also always ends up. It always ends up in child sacrifice. The devil hates babies. The devil hates them because they are our future and our hope. May the Lord bless and keep you. May his face shine upon you. May he surround you in his ring of fire and hedge of thorns of protection. May God send mighty angels of sufficient rank, authority, and number to drive the enemy from your midst. And then may the Lord envelop you in his peace. And we'll see you next time on The Sheep Pen. Don't forget to support the channel. Write me an email. Send something to my P.O. box. Thank you all for all of your support and all the love you've given me. And may the Lord bless you today. And may you find peace in this chaos. And may the Lord deliver us from this evil. In Jesus' name.